All right. That dude Lou here with Michael Clarity. It's my first interview as the dude Lou, new YouTube channel. Welcome. I hope you guys are enjoying it so far. It's been 10 seconds. Is it good? Okay. Um, so Mike here, Clarity, posted some videos on Instagram about taking mushrooms and receiving answers. I was intrigued. So I want to talk to Mike here today about these mushrooms. I've done mushrooms once, but I didn't have a lot of answers. I saw a lot of shit. I thought a lot of things, but I didn't have like answers. I'm interested in knowing what the answers are. So, Mike, first question: how much mushrooms did you consume to receive these answers?
Uh, well, first of all, good luck. Congratulations on the new show. The studio looks fucking great.
My Christmas tree. Yeah, I'm
Really
gonna work.
clean, really
I'll, I'm,
big.
I'm not. I'm not gonna make the podcast mistake of building a studio and then starting a podcast. I'll start the podcast first and then work on the studio.
Yeah, no, it's content, baby, and that's what we're here to provide some content. Um, yeah, but no, I think this is dope, and I love the name. That dude Lou.
Yeah,
Fruit
you helped me with the
punch.
name, which I appreciate. But yeah,
I did.
that's that you did. Yeah, you. I think I was gonna go with like the some other name, and you're like that dude Lou. What about that dude Lou? I was like, that
We
is good.
we did kick around. Yeah, we did kick around some names. Yeah, I like it. That dude Lou. It's that dude Lou.
Theme song coming.
You gotta
TBD.
have a theme song contest for all of your subscribers. So, okay. So what was the question?
how much mushrooms did you consume to get the answer?
It's so funny you keep saying answer. I'm not sure if I ever phrased it that way, but that's cool because I get like this I get this like twitch when you say answer because it
So
seems
what?
so
How did you say it? Like, how did you say
it
it?
seems so
I'm
no, I might have said it, but it's like a funny connotation because it feels so like a finite, like oh now I understand. If there was an answer, it was deeper ways of questioning,
okay.
which is exciting to find more answers. So yeah, and it was 6 grams of dried cubensis.
6 grams. That's more than the Terrence McKenna recommended dose, which is five. But that's okay.
Yeah, he says like between 4 and 6. So that's yeah, that's the heroic one.
The heroic dose. Was it 5 dry grams in silent darkness? Is his recommendation? I think that's what he said.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Now, so maybe you didn't say answer, but you did say that it showed you what the core of the problem was. And what was the core? What did it reveal? Maybe is the right word.
Yeah. So I went into this journey with an intention of um and by the way, if anybody feels weird about words like journey and being shown and like mushroom, like this is not some hippie speak. This is like it's like very real, a very real journey in the very real sense of the word. And like mushrooms talking to you, like there's no clearer way of saying it. Because I still hear myself say like journey, and I'm like, but I think somewhere just got co-opted, and I have to come to terms with using them when they matter. So I put my intention into this journey around my relationship with food because it is it's just always been it's just always plagued me. It's just always plagued me. And I'm getting older and it's becoming more of an issue and my health is starting to really take a hit from it. And there's lots of different things in my life that I could work on that need work, but the food thing is the most pressing. It's the most likely to kill me of all my issues, you know. So that was what I set my intention for. And throughout the trip, it was like It was like a blueprint of everything in my life, and food was only a part of that. So I'm trying, like, it's like I'm going back there. It's such a massive, complicated, you know, map that this thing showed me. And it was showing me like my relationship uh with certain words. Like it was asking me to think about certain words that I had in my life. Like I have them written right here. Actually, I sit here and stare at them for the last 2 weeks. Uh, clear, dirty, clean, trust, value, worth, victim, water, seed, integrity, work. Work was a big one. Protection, safe, and it would tell me like you're supposed to trust, and I would say like trust what? Like what am I like trust what? And then it would say to me like, well, what does trust mean for you? And now, mind you, like this is not an English back and forth verbal conversation, but it's a very real conversation that I'm having with this entity. Um, and it would say like trust, and I'm like, well, who the fuck do I trust? And then it would ask me like, well, what is like, how did you learn like what trust is? And I would like chase this word, this idea of trust, like all the way back to child, and get this sense of like, oh, I don't really have a solid like foundation for that word. So I kind of like it's corrupt, like that file's corrupted. And then it would say, now take that and apply it to what you can trust right now. And I'm like, I fucking can't. What can I trust if that trust file is corrupted? And then it showed me how, in searching for meaning, in searching in survival mode, in searching to create some sort of survival tactic of creating a level of trust and a level of worth. That was another one, trust and worth. It brought me to That's when it started showing me food as, in the ways that, like, my parents used to fight a lot, and I'd be really scared and I'd feel really unsafe, and like, they never hit me, but I was witness to a lot of like arguments and like really violent, just crazy fights. Definitely no trust there. But then it would show me that, and then it would show, which was like the epitome of like no trust, like being completely helpless, and also feeling worthless because I wasn't being cared for, being paid attention to, all of that. And then it would show me the moments where food started to create that feeling of safety and that feeling of worth. And then it would just keep going back and forth with these different words. So it would ask me about these words, and then I would go back and I would find this like corruption within the programming of this word. And then it would lead me to how I made that word, how I made that thing fit under duress, under the duress of a child in survival mode, without any way of like figuring this out on his own, or without anybody to teach him this stuff. I made sense of it with, it was either food, and then there's like a bunch of, it turned out like it's not just about food, but food was a big thing in there. And it was what I learned to use early on to create the feeling of trust, to create the feeling of value, um, the idea of being dirty and clean, and that around, it was like all of these. I didn't expect, like, I don't know what I was expecting, but I think I was expecting to just wake up the next day and suddenly not be hungry. you know Suddenly
Mhm.
like be satiated after a meal. I didn't think that it was going to be so much work, which is kind of funny why this work kept coming up too. because what it was showing me was that like here's the, if there's an answer, like here's what you're looking for, but it's not going to heal itself just by being aware of it. And the work has to come through reprogramming that file, going into that file and actually creating new definitions of trust. Um, it brought my friend because in the beginning we did this opening ceremony where you kind of call it the spirit of people you want along on the ride with you. And I called my friend in there with me. She's one of my best friends, and we've recently had like a little rough patch. And I thought, it'd be good to have her here, and it'd be good. Maybe this would be good for our relationship. And it showed me under this banner of trust, there was like she was in the room. There was her face. I was like, holy shit! And it was like, here are the opportunities that you've been given to learn trust, and you choose to not trust this person sometimes. Um, let her speak more and trust the information that she has for you and trust the relationship that you have with her and trust your connection, and I was like, oh shit. So it was almost being like, it was kind of like being like a dick. It was kind of being like, hey man, like I tried to give you opportunities to like create trust and you're not doing it, which brought up a whole level of like accountability and making me wonder, this idea of being a victim. How am I, where's the choice to stop? It's like, okay, I was young and I made all these programming and everything like that, but like I'm 43 now. I can't keep saying like woe is me. And like I asked it that, I'm like, where are these points where I get to like make these conscious decisions? And showing me my friend was one really profound, because it like the message, a lot of the message was garbled, some of it took days and it's still coming to me, but that message was so fucking clear. Like, here are your chances, like this are your is how you program what trust is, by actually trusting people that you can trust. And I thought that that was really, really interesting. So,
Now wait, now this person, this friend, was she literally in the room with you, or like to just
no,
come to you in the trip?
no, she just came to me in the
Interesting.
trip. Yeah, because my guide, we'll call him my guide that was with me. He does this ceremony where it was like, call in, the spirit of people that you would either like to be here with you, in the, like as if they're in the room, or like that you think that your relationship would benefit from, or just whoever's, on your mind, and that's why I was like, oh yeah. Hey, and I was also like, I had never done that either. So I was also trying to keep it. I'm like, all right, whatever. Like, I'll think of, okay. But I didn't realize how well that would work. I was like, holy shit. Like, I asked for her. There she is. And there's like a huge nugget of understanding, one of the clearest nuggets of understanding from this person, you know? Yeah. So my faith in all kinds of unseen shit, I mean, has always been, my faith in the unseen has been like, always been really strong. But after this experience, it's on a new level now for sure.
Damn. And that's cool because you answered my first question and my second question, which was like, what did the mushroom show you? I definitely wanted to, and you just pretty much answered that whole question. Now, so based on what you just said, as far as like, so they showed you these words: trust, dirty, clean, work, seed, value. So when you say it's obviously it's hard to describe, as you just said, like this tapestry of whatever. It wasn't like a, like I'm assuming it wasn't like an actual blueprint picture. It was just sort of like combination of images and feelings and all that stuff. So when it showed you things like, all right, so trust, you talked a lot about the trust thing. So my whole thing about trust. So when you talk about trust, I was thinking about trust, how I view trust, right? And what you said makes perfect sense. Well, how I took it was, so when you want to, let's say you're talking about another person. So you want to trust this other person, whether it's a friend or a family member or whoever. It is probably better to give them the opportunity to say and do what they want, and then you maybe it's more beneficial for you to just take them on their word, take them on their action, that what they're saying and doing is what they are meaning, and there's no ulterior motives or whatever bullshit behind what they're doing. But there's also people who you'll trust and you'll find out later like you shouldn't have trusted. So do you think maybe
Go ahead.
yeah, I was gonna say, do you think maybe part of like how you were looking at things and what you were seeing and what it was showing you was to compare, like, was it like to trust yourself or to trust, like, so with the food, obviously you went through some things as a kid, and then but food was there. Food was the thing you clinged onto. Some people cling on to other things, sex, pain, whatever.
Crack.
Crack, exactly, yeah. So do you think the trust is to tell you to, it's hard, it's tough. I mean, trust is one of those, it's interesting. It's like it's one of those hard things. We say the word probably 10 times a day and we know what it is, but what is it? What is it really? Because technically, or maybe typically is the right word I want to say, trust is seems very conditional. Like, as long as you don't give me a reason not to trust you, I'll trust you. And if I like you, I'll trust you. Or if I want something from you, I'll trust you. But technically speaking, isn't that like me almost manipulating you? Or so you think maybe it was something along the lines of like you manipulated yourself into thinking the food will make you feel better, or you trusted that the feeling that you get from eating is good, so just keep chasing that feeling? Or like, do you think you could elaborate more? Because I know you said you're still digesting everything that happened, but like, what do you like? Yeah, I guess my question would be like, what? So, what was your conclusion so far as to like trust?
So for trust, and please, yeah, always because I know a lot of this is it's murky for me still. So if I need to elaborate, definitely ask.
You did it. You explained yourself well. Just even for me, I'm like, damn, like trust is one of those things, man. It's like, it's is it really defined? If I could look
it
at the
was
definition.
it was showing me trust in the sense that I have with my friend. There's never been anything dishonest or it's nothing like that in the I almost feel like that's a more superficial form of trust. Like, did you steal my shit?
Yeah,
Um, or are you lying to me? Like that wasn't really the trust. That's not how the mushroom was framing trust for me. It was framing it in um okay. So it was showing me like our conversations and how I will tend to not let her speak or not finish a thought or will tend to think that I know better in some cases. And it was showing me like, hey, this is a voice that is an important part of your path. She has a lot to offer you, and you need to trust that her expression is valuable. So shut the fuck up and listen, you know? And that was the trust that it was showing me, that like, because I do get caught up in sometimes getting really eager to be like, yeah, but like, I heard what you said. Now here's my thing, where I'm not really hearing what you say. And it was framing trust in that way. And then it was asking me to develop that same kind of trust within myself. The entire trip was a there was a theme throughout the whole thing, that was a swirling mass of dense energy that seemed to be moving slower around the edges and got clearer and faster and clearer and brighter as it got to the center. And there was something at the center that was like very like X marks the fucking spot. Like the center was where it was at. And it kept showing me this cyclone thing overlaid, also kind of just going around, overlaid onto all of these experiences. That's why I say it was like a almost like a one of those transparency papers, you know, it was just like, and this model fits here, and this model fits here, and fits here. And it would it would change its shape. I know this is fucking crazy stuff. It would change not necessarily its shape, but it would go from like the model of the cyclone with the clear thing at the center to literally kind of like that snake eating its own tail. It would just keep going like something coming into existence and out of existence and into existence and out of existence and into it was just like shoo 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 going around. So it was this this circular thing, right? And with trust, that circular thing, like once I understood, oh yeah, I need to let her speak more. I need to like, yeah, I need to, you know, our friendship, you know, maybe I wasn't being you know, trusting in our bond, trusting in the connection that we have with each other in our last little rough patch. And I see how I could have been more trusting and probably things would have gone a little smoother. And then it would take me to this repeating circle. And then it asked me to apply that on myself. And I was like, oh, there's nothing inside of me that I can trust.
Uh,
And I was like, fuck. It was like yeah, like here's like the external, here's your friends, here's this thing, here's this person, here's okay, you have a sense now, you know what I'm talking about with trust. Okay, now apply it to yourself. And then I was like, oh, oh, yeah. And I would just see like, you know, fast food and fucking lack of sleep and just all the ways that I treat myself like shit. And not even just in the body, just with my thoughts. And I was like, oh yeah, there's nothing. That's that thing that's just going in a circle because I'm going, all right, I got to get some trust. Whoop, nothing there I can trust. All right, I get some trust. Whoop, nothing there I can trust. And that's what it was showing me with this concept, with this idea of trust. And I was like, oh fuck. And then and then I would get the sensation. I would be met with the sensation of what it would be like to be able to have something internally seed that I could trust. I was like, oh my God, that feels like a whole new fucking human. That feels like a whole new human. Like the idea of like, oh, if I build this machine with, you know, all the good stuff and really do the work, I can then trust my own shit and all of the trust files that are corrupted with relationships and just all of the ways, you know, like I said, that thing with my friend, that was I think that was a real I think that was a real I don't know if there's a hierarchy of the word. I feel like there are more shallow ways that I distrust people, where I will get paranoid, or if I overthink, I'll like, you did that because you did that, you know. And then I saw how all that would just go away because I have this seed, this like bright, healthy seed that I can trust. Yeah.
Interesting. I like that visual, the self-eating snake. That whole like it's here it comes, it's gone. It's no beginning, no end. It's just a circle, a cycle. And you talked about one thing you did say. I mean, like I said, I listened to your recaps and I wrote some stuff down. The one thing you said was, um, I think one of the things it showed you is like, or one of the things you spoke about. I don't know if it showed you this, but how to make meaning. So could you speak a little bit more to that, like as far as like you're kind of talking about it now, like taking this information and like make it apply it to your life, to you personally. But I think you were talking about like how to make meaning.
It didn't. The relationship, the vision or whatever, the information that I got around meaning was it was like you're using meaning as a bypass to actually do the work necessary to heal yourself because you have all of this insight and you've connected the dots before and you make meaning out of it and you write a fucking poem about it and then everybody loves it, but you don't fucking do anything with the information, you know? And
Ah,
that's not to say it's not 100% true. You know, it's like I make little micro adjustments along the way, but it's mostly true. And this idea of meaning making is another way is another reason why my inability to focus is so fucking high and um my inability to like really sit for long and meditate, which is really what I'm trying to work on, just the sense of presence, to be present, because I've spent so long making meaning out of the shit around me, you know, making stories because nobody told me how shit worked. So I made meaning out of it. And I used to think that it was like this fucking gift. I used to think that it was like a virtue of mine to be able to make meaning. And it was like, no, you're not special because you make meaning out of stuff. Like you're only special in the moment that you can realize that you're not special. That's it. And and it was showing me, it was putting me nose to nose with my art. You know, I had a show 48 hours after that, and it was like, and I was like, am I supposed to not do this show? Am I supposed to quit? Am I supposed to like not be like a performer or anything? Like I'm like, what the fuck? And it was like, no, you need to like be able to trust your work. You need to be able to not just make meaning out of the insights, but actually apply the insights so that the work that you're putting out there is the real deal, not just, hey, here's some stuff I found and maybe, and it may or may not work, which is, I didn't really know that I was doing that, but I always had a sense. I always had a sense, you know, it's part of that imposter syndrome, you know, because I would, you know, I write this shit or I'll write about something that like changed my life for 5 minutes, or that I changed my life, but I only did once. And then I stand on stage and I present it, or I write it and I present it. And then I fear that it looks like, oh, I'm the guy that always does that because I said
uh-huh.
it once. It's like, no, I'm the guy that like, you know, figured out how to say it in a cool way. And like, I try to do it a couple times a year, you know, or whatever, you know? And that's like which comes back to like trust and integrity and like going back to that self-eating snake thing, like, oh, I keep going back to the well and realizing that it's fucking polluted. Or, you know, it's just like I keep trying to go and being like, why am I not getting anywhere? Why am I not, you know, how am I not realizing these dreams of mine? And how am I not you know, successful in the way that I define being successful? And I'm, you know, I'm doing the things, and then it would just show me like, yeah, no, you're going like you're like you're better, but you're still not really committed to this. So you're going back to the well, and the well is polluted, and here's all the ways that it's polluted. But you have been committed to being the guy on the path. Like you're not committed to like, you know, being the guy that, you know, achieves a higher path, you know, and that was part of this realization with identity of being like, fuck, like I really am, um, you know, it's, I feel like I could talk for an hour on each one of these words, because like victim was the next one. And that was part of what I was seeing, that I was really clinging to, this idea of being a victim. Um, and it was always just going back and going back. And this is like, Lou, like this was such a familiar thing that I was being shown. Like I feel like I felt like I was being brought into like a room that I used to hang out in, and I kind of forgot that that room was even there. There was something so familiar about all of the feeling of all this stuff. Like I was really looking at my own DNA, like I was really looking at my own shit. And it was yeah, I mean, it was showing me like in no uncertain terms, like you are not here's the fucking reason, dude. Like you're trying to you're putting, good shit out in the world, and you're not putting as good of a shit out in the world as you can, and you're upset about that. And here's the fucking reason why. It's you, you know? You're like, oh fuck.
No, I get that. I get that part because I think a lot of people have that, as you said, like the imposter syndrome. Like I don't deserve this, or this isn't really me, or I'm not as good as I even think I am, or people might tell me I am. But that other part of it, I think, so it's kind of showing you that, like you said, like when you talk about the poetry specifically, I can really relate because I definitely do the same thing. I'll see a thing, or I get inspired by what inspires us: music, movies, something that happens to me in the day-to-day basis, and then you see an issue with it, or you have a feeling about it, and you take 5, 10, 20, 30 minutes, write, and then put it on the internet. Like, yeah, this is what's wrong with you, society, or this person, or this situation. And it's not like you're doing anything different. You're just, it's real easy to like sit back and be like, well, here's the problem with the world, and if we just did X, Y, and Z, it would be just fixed. But are you going to start with you? Like, no, not me, but like someone else. That's like it's almost like a um self-induced, self-perpetuating, self-inflicted like virtue signaling, where it's like, here's the problem, you do something about it. Not like Instagram, like the virtue signaling, and like you might see on Instagram where someone's like post about some tragedy in the world, whatever it may be, and like that's like the raising awareness of it. Like that's worse than doing nothing, because all you're doing is taking a meme and putting it on your story and like, yeah, you do something about this. Here's, I did my part, I told you to do it. But this is like yourself, like you're getting to see how, as you said, you're on a path, which is good. Being on a path is better than being on no path. But you have this like self-perpetuating, like I'm just always on this path and search. But at a certain point you must realize, or I guess if you got to the end of your life, you're like, all I was on this path, I actually didn't do what I wanted to do, or as you said, like the best version of what I could do, because I don't want to do the work. And you talked a little about like fear, and Louis C.K. has a good bit about why are people, when they get the thing they want, the job, the relationship, the whatever, they're like, how come I don't, like, why don't I like it? It's because all your decisions are based on fear. So you just like make these like rash decisions, because like, if I get the car, I'll be happy. If I get this girl, I'll be happy. This job will make me whole. If I get the job, I'll be whole. If I buy the house on the water, I'll be whole. And then you get to the finish line of your, even the people who are like, how many interviews have we watched where billionaires are suicidal, or athletes, they achieve the dream, and then when they get there, they're like, oh, I'm still here. It's still me in better sneakers with more money, but I'm still here, and I wasn't happy then, and I'm not happy now. So um, it's more than just achieving a thing to chase after it, because I think that's what a lot of being a human just is. Like I know me personally, I like the chase of a female, like trying to court someone and not actually running after them, and like, but like the getting to know them and all that stuff, and that's like the most exciting part. Starting a new job, moving, going somewhere. Like when I go somewhere, I'm talking about anywhere, like on vacation or to like camping or whatever. The most exciting is like getting to get there. And then you get there, you're like, all right, that's what I thought it was going to be. And it's good. It's great. It's like a miracle to be able to do some of the things that I do, but we're like this weird, like unpleasable species where it's like you're on the fucking moon and you're like, it's really quiet up here. I thought it'd be better. Like there is that part of us where it's like you get the gold and you're like, I thought it'd be shinier. I thought it'd be
That
better.
part, right? So there it is. Like, what part is that? It's discontentment, right? It's like there's that part that's not content because all of the attempt to do all of this, whatever it is that you're trying to achieve, it's happening externally. And I think that, if you're not doing any kind of internal work, it is you're always just going to be fucking miserable. I spent almost the last 10 years running around the world because I was like, I'm not going to be depressed. I'm not going to be fat. I'm going to go to Vietnam where I'm depressed. And now everything is really tiny and I don't fit anywhere, but I'm going to make it work. I'm going to go to this beach and this is going to be the beach. Here I am. Okay, Malaysia. I never thought I'd be on a beach in Malaysia. Why do I fucking want to kill myself? It's it's because all of that effort is happening, and I have amazing life experience that I, am really grateful for, and I wouldn't change any of it. But none of that was doing the deep work. Some parts of it were, but I wasn't really trying to like be present in my body and like pay attention. Pay attention, dude. Like being actually present with what my body's doing and remembering that I have a body is like it's just never been on the top of my list. Because I want to make meaning out of, oh yeah, like, oh man, I packed a bag and I took my bipolar meds with me and I traveled across the continent to a new continent, and here I am still miserable. Oh yeah, that's like like your demons are always. Oh, there's a poem about your demons always being attached to you, and it's like, ooh yeah, it's like it's juicy. It's
Yeah.
juicy to make meaning out of all that, to literally put yourself through the suffering to make meaning out of it. And what I was doing is trying to convince myself that that was the work by having these like brilliant observations or putting a couple of words together that sounded cool and said something that other people feel but maybe can't express. And I feel like that's it, like but there's never an it's more like it's like the really comes from, I think, what I'm doing now. I think like this idea of just trying to be present and be in my body and pay attention to, think about all of these words and like like what life might actually be like if I fucking reprogram all of these. That's why sometimes when we talked, I think before you started recording, about the some of the videos that I've been posting and like feeling really insecure about them and feeling kind of embarrassed and shameful, and then I get this flood of like, yeah, what happens a year from now when I show up 180 pounds on Instagram and I'm like, okay, gang, here's how we did it. It's like I really feel like I'm on the path to that, and I feel like I've been on the path to fucking get healthy for my entire life. And for the first time, it actually feels like I have useful information that requires me to go inside, not buy an ab roller or fucking eat ephedrine or fucking eat fat free. Those are all the fads in the 90s. It was like fat free, do the next fat thing and all of that. Where I'm like, this is the answer. And I'm like, of course,
Yeah.
like here's the answer is unfucking this system.
The mushroom told me just to drink Diet Coke. And you know what?
Yeah.
I'm gonna fucking do it, man. Because it's got
Multi-media sponsorship with saccharin.
yeah, it's got no sugar, man. That's it. No, but I agree. And you know what? So I want you to talk a little bit about if you can, because when you said the word inner work, which is a term, a phrase I've heard a zillion times, because I have the same thing where I'll sit down for 2 hours and listen to Eckhart Tolle tell me about the present moment, and I'll go, uh huh, got it. And then she's like, all right, what's on Instagram? And like, I'm out of it. Before the video fades to black, I'm like, ooh, let me go play this. Like I'm out of the moment already. So when you say inner work, because you discussed the outer work, and I can relate. I would say like we're exactly the same, but I feel like everyone is exactly the same. We have the same everything where it's like if I just make my house, my body, my clothes, my all the stuff that you can see look awesome, maybe I'll think it's I'm awesome. Maybe I'll feel better. And they're just not. Like I said, billionaires kill themselves just as much as people who have no money. So money isn't the fucking solution. Living on top of a skyscraper doesn't seem to be it either. So what is it? So when you say inner work, the reason why I want to talk more about that is because just hearing it gives me anxiety because I honestly do not know where to begin, what it actually is. Like sitting there, like thinking hard, is that inner work? Like, God, what is it? Like when you say inner work, like what do you mean inner work? Like specifically.
Consciousness, awareness, developing a sense of being in a body that is different than the person that you think you are. Uh, Getting a sense of watching your thoughts and then watching the thing that's watching them and then watching the thing that's watching that
Mm-hmm.
and really separating yourself from and not just because it's like, yeah, watch an Eckhart Tolle video and be like, okay, I got it. But for years I did the same thing, and I'm not saying like I got it now, but it was like this idea of understanding. So it's like really understanding that you are not your thoughts, you are not your brain, you are not your body, that there is something else there. And finding ways to nurture that and finding ways to strengthen that and to get that more present, because then I think you can really navigate this world in in a way that's like kind of outside of the lines, really. um because it's really hard because a lot of people aren't doing it, and it's I've butted up against it my I think really my whole life, but even 17, 18, 19, when I really started to like look to like mysticism and try to like look at Buddhism and try to like really search for answers, like it was always there for me, but some part of me always saw how fucking hard it is to admit that I'm not who I think I am, and that I have belief systems that are not real and imagined, and they need reprogramming. And I didn't have the intellect to say any of this. I could barely feel it, but that's what was preventing me from being like, yeah, that was a cool documentary. Let's fucking get some dominoes, like, or like, hey, yeah, that, what, you're right. I'm gonna like adopt. And over the years, I've, for all of my beating myself up, I'm almost always hydrated. Water is just always, even when I'm at my worst, I'm always, I learned the importance of water when I was like 20. And it's really funny because when I am really just checked out and dissociated, like I'm like, this fucking gallon of water. Like I've really committed to like having you like in my life, Um,
Me too.
it's like, water, like fasting has always been a tool. I found fasting around the same time, around 2000, and I experimented with it and it worked really well. And then I was like, cool, like let's fucking go to the bar, like after like once I did that. So I learned these things, and that was the thing that the mushroom was showing me too. Like, here are all the opportunities you had to like stay on the path, and here are all the ways that you just didn't, because you know that it requires this like tremendous amount of effort and a complete redesigning of what you believe, and the willingness to say what I believe is probably not real. And I also don't think that I'm a lunatic for saying that, So it's like really asking you to trust in this process. And for the last like 6, 8 months, I've been dabbling more in mindfulness practice and trying to seek answers, trying to seek support around meditation and mindfulness. And then this trip completely fucking busted it open. And now it's kind of become like, that's it. Like, that's it. That's the fucking way, and every day I'm like trying to just do 15 minutes of either, breath work, or just, I have friends in my life that I hit up for, hey, give me some tips. How are you meditating? And for the first time in my life, I actually like care to do it, because that's what's so fucking wild. I'm reading this book, and I'm like, I knew all of this information has come and gone from my screen for 2 decades. And why now am I like, I'm like, give me more. I'm like, knowledge, 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 knowledge. And I think there's something that happened after that trip that's like really allowed me to think that I deserve, maybe not deserve, but let's see, to think that I'm worthy of that information. Because I think a lot of the block from like I was watching a video, and the words, I don't know, they said something that it was like the different levels, and it was like, then it's like enlightenment. And it hit me in a new way, where I always felt like the idea of like enlightenment, or like that this was something that was for other people. So that's like something that, oh yeah, but like I'm just way too fucking gone, I'm just fucked up. And I think I think I did that with a lot of the universe's attempts to put mindfulness in front of me, to like show me, you know, here's a hippie chick, like hang out with her for a little while, like here's some incense, like all the ways that like I gravitated toward all that. I'm like, oh yeah, incense, I like that, I like stones, I like, all of these ways. But I always felt way in the back of my head that what all of this stuff represents is not really available for me. So I will, pop into the crystal shop when I see a new one, or I'll buy some new incense, or I'll have an altar, of things that are special to me. And I won't actually in front of it and meditate, because I feel like that's not for me. And suddenly I feel like it's for me. I feel like it's for everyone. I feel like suddenly I feel like, oh, okay. And now that I'm like actively trying to do it, it's like it's really fucking hard. But it's hopeful. That's why I feel like I'm gonna make a t-shirt that says horrified and hopeful, because that's how it's got me feeling. It's got me horrified over the immense amount of work that it's asking me to do in order to just fucking be present and reprogram my shit, and hopeful that like for the first time I'm like, oh, there it is. Okay. It's like there's always been a stink in this house. What the fuck is it? And then somebody like threw open a garage door that's like packed to the roof and packed to the door with all kinds of shit. And they're like, back corner is a dead cat, you know? And I'm like, oh, okay. Well, now I know it's there. So now I just gotta fucking, somebody want to help me move all this shit? It's like kind of, I'm like, okay, Good, because at least I know it's there, and now I'm just going to start moving things one by one to get to the dead cat.
No, it makes sense. Like you're talking about, like basically it's like discipline. You had all the information and all the tools, but if you don't do anything with it, they're all the best tools in the world in the wrong hands are just paperweights collecting dust. Like they're just not. And when you talked about belief, that resonated because I was thinking, yeah, that makes sense. Because I guess if I really boiled it down to it, like, what is my, not religious belief, but like belief? And my belief, I guess my core mantra deep down, like underneath all the whatever the hell I'm talking about, is I don't care. And that is the problem, where it's like, I really don't have to worry about any of this because I'll be dead eventually. And like, whatever happens, happens sort of, which obviously isn't good. It's not the right way to do it. It's not smart, especially, you talk about me and then the person watching and then so on. Like I'm a person who has anxiety and I'm a person who's a hypochondriac and obsessive compulsive. And so I'll play that game, the shell game, until like I'm like 18 viewers back and like having a panic attack. I'm like, shaking. Like so
Can I
I
give you
understand
some insight on what you just said, something that you just said about yourself that I think is really interesting?
what.
You said that what you believe, what do I believe? And you said, well, what I believe is that nothing matters,
Yeah, I don't
right?
care.
Nothing,
Yeah.
that nothing matters. I don't care. And then you said, well, that's not good. So what you really believe is that what you believe is bad, right? So what
Hmm.
you really, it's like, yeah, it's like and that's, part of this experience that I'm having is, oh yeah, there's more layers underneath this idea of like, here's my belief. And I guess that makes sense, but also it's like, yeah, but this belief survives by I guess the ultimate belief over it that Lou's bad because he believes this, you know?
Or
I don't know.
if you want to,
I could be projecting out from my
no,
own
no,
shit.
no, you're not projecting because if you really want to, like I said, keep going down that hole, is that yeah? So it's what I what I believe is I don't care, and the reason why I don't care is because let's say it's because I think what I think is wrong or bad, but then it's like, well, what holds that up? Like, what holds that up? And what holds it up is like things that didn't work out for me before. So why would this? So it's almost like at a certain point in your life, and maybe some people hit this point when they're 16 and some people hit it when they're 50, is that you learn by the pattern or your perception of a pattern, if there is one. And I think because I used to be a lot more, I say this all the time, I used to be way more cynical than I am now, but I still am. And what it boils down to is that I think maybe me and maybe a lot of people, probably most adults, consider themselves an adult because they've dealt with X, Y, and Z before, feelings, emotions, situations, and they just circumvent the emotions of it and just skip ahead to what they think the finish line of that will be, where it's just like disappointment or whatever. Like if sometimes I hear people bitch about like, pick a thing this year, like inflation or whatever, global unrest. And you're just like, yeah, of course that's what's happening because that's what's always happening. Now, I don't know if that's wrong or right or good or bad, but I feel like that is like a big example of like the little things in your everyday life of like, you know, as you get up in age, just the specifically like all of a sudden, like out of nowhere, like my leg will just feel weird. And should I do something about it or should I just be like, it'll eventually go away or I don't really care. It's not stopping me from doing anything. I am aware of it. I could do something about it. Probably walking will solve that problem. I don't need to get surgery. Probably should just move. And then there's that thing of like another layer of that is like when you said about like you had all the information, hippie chicks along the way, the stone, the rocks, the incense. all the accoutrement of what it's supposed to be, but not, but it's hollow. There's no like solid core. So I feel like I have the same thing of like, I think me and I'll maybe a lot of people also, I don't want to lump everyone into my nightmare, but I'll know the information, know what quote unquote the answer is. And I think I get like satisfaction just like knowing like, oh, I could do that. When? Not today, but I know what the answer is. I know how to get to a svelte 200 healthy pounds. Not doing it today, but I do know what the answer is and how to do it. And just the idea of like I will do it satisfies me on some level. I'm like I'm good. I'm just gonna lay here and watch TV, and but someday I'll do the thing, and I'll be fine after that. It's like
Mm.
a weird something, illusionary, delusional thing.
But who are you if you're not the guy that doesn't care?
That's another
And
part of it.
like what gets put in that void if you decide, if you actually decide to look at that belief story and recognize it as imaginative and not having any real world, it's not true, and that gets removed. What? Oh, who else? Who's in there? Who goes in
Yeah,
there? That's the horrifying and hopeful part, because it's like literally anybody, most likely the you that's really trying to fucking be a conscious being on this planet. I think that, I think that I even have a new relationship with the word God, the idea of God. And I used to have all kinds of aversions, and then like kind of like came up with my own like definition. And I was like, oh, I'll say it like this. But I think that, I think that God is consciousness, and it wants to survive through us, through these conscious beings. And it wants us, and the only way it survives. I'm a fucking idiot, by the way. Like, don't make like a 30-second clip of me talking some pseudoscience shit.
I'll
But
put a disclaimer on the screen. Like
this
Mike
is
doesn't know
it.
what he's talking about.
Fucking idiot. But I think it wants to survive through us being in touch with it, right? Because is consciousness, do you believe that consciousness is in the brain or outside of the brain?
I mean, that's the biggest question now, isn't it? Like, am I my
Not for
body?
me anymore. Not for me anymore. Nope. We are. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Answer that.
Yeah, I
Answer
was
that.
gonna say like, so I was gonna say I too grew up Catholic, so I had my definitive God, His Son, the whole hierarchy. I knew all the whatever 2,000 years ago bullshit. Then I became an atheist, like a at 13, like an asshole. Like, there's no God. Fuck everyone. You're all idiots. And for years, slowly being an atheist and like there's nothing. It's all we are. It's fear. We make up this thing to make ourselves feel better. The fact that we're going to be dirt at some point. I think years ago, a few years ago, maybe in the last five, I switched to become like I'm agnostic because I think it's arrogant to say I know, and I think it's arrogant to say I don't. That there is or there isn't. But I agree that very recently I've come to the same conclusion of like, no, I don't believe it's like a guy with a beard damning this group of people and blessing this group of people. But I do think, yes, I used to say, like you say, come up with your own word. My word was universe. Like the universe is in my favor. The universe is whatever. But I agree. That makes the most sense that there's this universal energy force, um, um, constant that is consciousness. So, because we can all tap into it. So, where is it? Is it inside the mush of my brain or is it everywhere? Is it everything? Like it's me and it's the table and the microphone and the desk and the chair and every single thing. And I'm just able to, like, here's how I wrestle with it. I look at deer. Like look at animals. I'm sure you've seen animals before, like, in the wild, not in the zoo, but like just see an animal. It's making decisions, right? And most of its decisions are based on survival, eating, fucking, sleeping, whatever. But there's a million videos of like animals seeking help from humans, wild animals, moose, bear, things that you think would kill you in a second. So like, okay, well, so it must know something, or it's aware. It has awareness. It's not just an eating fucking machine. So why do we why do we have these conversations? Why do we have philosophers and religions and people toiling and putting themselves through turmoil over something that's as simple as like consciousness? Because there's another part of our brain. So the brain part, the biology part, is in the way of the whatever you want to call it, consciousness that just exists. So I would say, yeah, it's outside the body, but it is the body. Like I'm made up of it, and so are you, and so is everything. But our whatever, something along the lines, our biology is it's in the way because what truly conscious species would allow itself to have like the DMV or highways or fucking, you know, a job? Like it's crazy. And I could hear all the people on the internet like, well, civilization and order. It's like, yeah. But the reason we have all that stuff is because even though there's
Consciousness
only like
wants
a
to have roads, you know.
yeah,
It's like consciousness want if we are little transistor radios hooking up to a signal and consciousness is that signal, it's like it's fucking broadcasting. It wants, it's like we are here on this planet and some of us are moving toward consciousness and some of us are moving away from consciousness. And I think, and some of us, are doing both. I mean, I know that if I look at the ways that I've tried to link up to consciousness in my life, it's always been the thing to do. Like, it's always just been like everything, all the bullshit, everything just seems to fit when I'm really kind of remembering myself and linking up to something greater, Um, and then when that reception gets fuzzy, when I'm really just, going on a food binge or just consuming, it's consumption of lots of things, of just like shitty media, low vibrational music, living around bad energy and all that and all of that then creates this blockage from consciousness. And I think that like I think the ultimate goal might be for like all of the people to link up and be and live a conscious life, but I don't think it's possible. But I wonder what 8 billion people fully connected to consciousness at the same time would look like. Because that's fucking cool to think about. I don't think we'll ever do that.
not us, but maybe some species on this planet, maybe the humans some time from now. But so yeah, my thoughts on consciousness. I mean, I could again mull it over until I think I like to say is I'll fix it until it's broken. I'll just
Well,
like
you
take
asked about the
something.
like the inner work, and I think that that's the thing. It's like I think that that's the inner work. I think it's because I could say like there are all these degrees where I could say like, hey man, like if you fast, if you start fasting, you get a little like this, or hey, if you start like looking at trying to be more honest in your life, there's a way to do it, like or trying to stay motivated, like go out there and get them, like there are all these like little things, but all of that comes from this higher realm of presence. And that allows you to then see where the work needs to happen. And it allows you to actually cultivate where the work isn't just sitting on a pillow for 20 minutes a day, but it's constantly happening as you're going about your day and actually changes the molecules in your fucking body, because it becomes a part of you. So it's not just like a thing to do, it's a thing to be.
No, I agree. I definitely. You said something before too that I liked, where you said, "I'm reading all these books," and you're like, "Oh, I've done that. I've done this. I know this already." And I've had that same experience where I'll watch, I'll have a moment of whatever you want to call it, like inspiration, motivation, whatever, and I'll say, "Oh, let me just watch this 10-minute video on this, or read this, or listen to this, or whatever it may be." And it's like, hey, if you're looking to be healthier, do these 10 things. Those videos are all pretty, they can be very like shallow, but there's good information in them as well. I mean, they might be presented in a certain way, but, while watching, I go like, I already do that. Like you said, water. I discovered the hydration, me too, man. Like years ago, I realized like just being hydrated. Like I have electrolytes in my water all pretty much all the time. It's not just water. I squirt some electrolytes in there and make sure I drink a gallon, at least a gallon a day, because I know the water makes everything else work better and makes me feel better. I could tell when I'm dehydrated. Like I could tell the difference, how I feel when I'm hydrated, how I feel when I'm not. So why is it that I cannot apply the same formula for everything else, for the food that I eat, for the amount of exercise and movement, sunshine, happiness, again, consciousness in the moment type behavior? And I find that I am in the moment quite a bit, actually. I drive for a living and I do listen to music or whatever, but sometimes I'm listening to nothing, or even if I have music on, like I'm in a good mood. I'm driving, I'm going from place to place, I'm totally in the zone, so to speak. And I just find myself smiling or laughing. Like I look at, like today, just for example, I'm driving and I'm in, I live in North Carolina, so there's lots of rural nature. The sun's going down, the trees, it's just beautiful. And I'm just like get excited, like I love this time of year, Christmas time and family and but the thing about the moment, sometimes, especially if you're not practicing, it's almost like an accidental like awareness. As soon as you're aware of it, it's gone. You're out of it. You're like, oh, I'm in them. Oh, no, not. So the work, I guess, what you're saying and how I'm hearing it is about like that practice of being aware of your body, being aware of your thoughts all the time. Like just so until it becomes, automatic, you know, just it's a part, it's how I function. I'm constantly aware of, because I think a lot of people have this problem. I think mental health, especially like someone who I've talked about anxiety ad nauseum, and a lot of it is losing yourself in your thoughts, feelings, which I've heard that a million times. You're not your thoughts, you're not your feelings, which is a big thing that's said in like in amongst people with anxiety, or the anxiety videos or community, whatever you want to call it. And it's true, because I haven't had a panic attack in years. Like even during the pandemic when I got close a couple times, or just in recent years. Now, that doesn't mean I'm cured or I figured out the solution or the answer. It's more of like, oh, I know my body. I'm used to these feelings and emotions and sensations and whatever you want to call them. And I just allow it more. Like, I wouldn't say I'm like the full, I guess the goal is to be the full observer. Like if I'm having a thought or a feeling, just like to be able to step back and look at it, at myself. But I definitely have parts of that, a good amount of that, where I can just like, okay, well, I know what this is, and I know what this looks like and feels like, and let me just, instead of like overthinking and making 400,000, catastrophic conclusions, I'm just going to sit here and breathe. Right, the breath is important. Your breathing is the most important thing, and then within 10 seconds, minute, I'm fine. But in the past, I've gone from, ooh, what's this sensation in my collarbone, to like, I'm driving to the hospital because I'm dying. And then you get to the hospital, you're like, hey, I'm fine. Can you guys, it's $2,000. All right, I'm fine. So
Yeah,
That's
I
how I
think
interpret
I don't know. I don't know if the I think it's about like just letting things be whatever they are, and then being able to discern between what is actually fucking real and what is imagined, and then being able to proceed accordingly. You know, like, oh, that's not even real. Okay. Oh, okay, that's who I really am, or that's how this is really, that's what this really, it really feels like to like being in my body. Well, I got to fucking, that doesn't feel so great. I got to do something about that, you know? I think it's like, and it's, what was I saying?
it.
Observation, baby, observation. Like that's what I think it is. And the idea of like when you said like why can I not do this? Um you know the guy Gurdjieff, G.I. Gurdjieff, he's like a Russian mystic. Um
I'm not familiar with him now.
yeah, look into him. And he his theory, he says that you can't a man can't affect real change by himself. That we're just too weak-willed. That we can't. That even uttering that would make you annoyed enough to be like, "Fuck you! I'll do this on my own," but you really won't. You know, he is a he believes in schools and teaching of like having somebody there to actually fucking guide you and hold you accountable, because that's part of who we are as humans, that we are not, and I don't mean that like you're not, your will is too weak to drop 20 pounds, your will is too weak to like actually, start that new business or anything. But what he's talking about is to affect like real transformation, to operate on a completely different level and transmute all of the beliefs in your body, all of the um repressed shit and all of the shit that you're clinging to, and to actually look at that and recognize it as all bullshit, and then become who you really are, which is this conscious being. That's what he believes that like a man can't do by himself, that will always just keep tripping up. And I think that that's, even hearing that is part of, well, I'm like, oh yeah, like I've always been trying to like do this by myself, and I've been slowly trying to like gather supporters, people that fucking have good information and have good intentions and will let me do shit for free because I'm fucking broke, or just like, or that offer free stuff, to kind of build a support around the work that I want to do, and I'm already finding, you know, this idea of needing a student or needing a teacher to be like really like the ultimate thing that I never tried before. Also, like having somebody, relying on other people to guide me.
It makes sense because I believe in. So if you, I'm sure you've listened to Alan Watts. Anyone who hasn't should definitely check out Alan Watts. He's the Westerner who just regurgitated all of like Eastern wisdom and all those stories about whether it's Buddha or whatever monk is about that the student and the teacher who's quote unquote enlightened and the student seeking it but always seeking it in the wrong way, and the teacher has to teach them why how they're looking to get there is not the right way to get there, and learning how to get there is sort of like learning how not to do it, or how what your approach is wrong is the way to do it. And also I do also I believe in like as far as like doing it with someone or being taught or why humans, why I believe humans do need a teacher or like some sort of blueprint or a path is like just because of simply the collective consciousness. Like, you've heard about just little things like think about like athletics. The first guy to break the whatever record, the fastest 100-meter dash, blows everything out of the water for the past 200 years. But as soon as he does it, within 5 years, 10 guys do it. Because I think something about us where once we, for whatever reason, and I don't know, I'm sure some smart brain out there has the actual answer. Um, until we see something done, even though we're trying to get at the same thing, maybe we don't believe it can actually be done, or there is something beyond the physical there where it's like I'm going to be the first guy to like climb Mount Everest. It's like no one's going to do that. You'll die. And then he does it, and now people go there for a vacation. Um, Going to the moon. We went to the moon. I'm sure some people don't believe we went to the moon, but just for this argument, we went to the moon. And then before that, after that, almost every you know country that had a spare budget went to the moon. So there's that part of the collective consciousness of like once we as a collective see someone do something awesome and great, then it becomes this actual tangible point. It's not an unknown. It's not so far off we can't see the light at the end of the tunnel. Now we see it. Ooh, that's that. There it is. And then it's easier to get there because we know someone got there. Like he did it, and he's just flesh and bones. So why can't I? That sort of thing. Like I definitely believe that. So a teacher for consciousness or a school or some sort of guide makes a lot of sense to me because it's like if you can get out of your own way as far as your ego is concerned and just listen to this other person, this other group, and put your, say your ego aside, it probably will be faster and easier. But instead of the other way, which is the way we've been doing it, which is it's going to take my whole damn life. Like I do have that thought too, just to say that for a second. Do you ever have this thought where as time does go on, I also make these little micro changes, small little baby steps. Even now in the past, it's almost like exponential. In the past, 20 years, it's been real slow. And in the past year, it's like much faster, but it's still not. And I had this feeling and I had this thought the other day, and I've had this thought before of like, I'm afraid that by the time I figure it all out, whatever that means, like get at peace, I'll die. Like as soon as I get it all figured out, I'll be at like 2 years for the end of my life or something like that. Like there's that part too. I think about.
Yeah, well, that's just more thought. That's just more thought that
Yeah.
it makes not doing the work sound attractive. You're like, oh, I might just die. I never really considered my mortality much in my life, and maybe in the last 7 or 8 years I have, and I kind of didn't give it much of a thought, but I kind of figured, nah, I'll probably be dead before I'm 60. I'm like, I don't take care of myself, even though like I try and all this. Um, or it's like I'll have I'll have a in my 30s, I was really getting some breakthroughs as far as like understanding my behavior and I was like, oh wow, I was like, wow, like how much fucking longer is it going to take for me to be like a actually like a happy person? But I think now with this new information and this hope, I think that I look at I'm like, oh, I'm fucking 43. I'm like, if I keep doing this for like fuck, I could fucking rock 60 is the new 50, right? Like I could rock another 30 years like as a fucking healthy, don't laugh at me. I'm actually thinking like, oh, I might be able to actually get my shit together in this life, which is the longest that I've projected myself on this planet, like ever, you know? Um, so yeah, I've had that thought and this kind of work and this idea, um, and this information, I mean, I'm going to do more. I'm doing another mushroom trip next month, and I'm going to go even harder because I really want to fucking get to the bottom of things here. So yeah, it's I think it is it's I think the work, this kind of work is waiting for all of us. And I'm not sure, it's just a matter of when are you ready to do it? Are you ready to do it? And you do it. It takes a lot.
No, I agree. And I agree what you said too about that thought, even though I may not have even intended it to be that way, or like, I'm not going to do it because I'm going to be dead. But I more meant like the irony of like, I'll finally feel like I'm enlightened. And like, 6 months later, I'm like dead. But I also think that that could possibly be my brain's way of rationalizing just not doing it. Why bother? You're going to die. Why bother? It doesn't make a difference. Why bother? It's like, what you said one time, and I've mentioned this to you before. And when we first started, got to know each other online, because we actually never met in person, but through the open mic scene during the pandemic, we were all reaching out and talking and meeting each other and having nights like this just over Zoom because that's all you could do. And you were stuck in with Thailand, and we were talking about a few months later, I took a road trip across the country, and I loved it. I mean, I for 2 months by myself in a bus did the thing that most people dream about doing. I just went and fucking did it. Took whatever money I had and took my bed, put it in the bus, and drove. Went everywhere. And I had a good time, and I loved it. But I definitely had that too of like, you know, I'm excited to go. I'm in, Colorado. I'm heading to Montana. That whole 2 day, 3 day, and then you get there and you're like, it's nice. All right, where to next? And I wasn't so much like I wasn't enjoying myself, or wasn't happy, but I still had that sort of like, okay, what's next? Where's the next treat, the next candy bar, or whatever? And we were talking about it, and I said something about like, yeah, what sucks is I was always nervous, like I'd get somewhere and it would suck. It would be yuck or something. And you said sometimes when you get places, the yuck is you. And I was like,
Ah,
that makes a lot
yeah.
of sense to me because that is a lot of people's problems. I didn't have that exact experience, but I understood exactly what you meant, meaning no matter where you go, there you are. Like again, millions of dollars, fame, fortune, achieving your actual literal fucking dreams. How many people have I watched interviews of talk about they achieved their dream, the thing that drove them for 30 years of their life? They get there and they're just like, I'm still unhappy. How does that happen? And it's because sometimes the yuck is you, man. It's not the
The
thing
Yuck
or
is You is a great name for a fucking podcast. The Yuck is You. The Yuck is Lou. No.
we should do the
Yeah.
yuck. Yeah, like that's that. There's just one of these profound things you said to me that stuck with me because it makes perfect sense. Like no matter like I mean, I'm sure that's an old philosophical. No matter wherever you go, there you are. I've heard that somewhere. Or I'm sure I know I didn't make it up, but that's this. It's like I write a lot in my poetry, not a lot, not all the time, but I do occasionally use cliche on purpose and write about cliche because the more people hate cliche, the more I push against that, going like, but cliche is there for a reason. The cliche tropes, the cliche thoughts, the cliche feelings, because most of us have those feelings and thoughts. It's the most common thing. So it might not be sexy or eye grabbing or entertaining, but it doesn't mean it's not true or right. That these cliche, like wherever you go, there you are, or sometimes the yuck is you. It's not a you know overly worded, you know, overly thought out, complicated idea. It's just simply if you're like, there's a skit on SNL, perfect. Adam Sandler's playing the travel agent, talking about Italy and bringing like almost like the old Perillo commercials from New York in the 80s and 90s.
Yeah.
And he talks about how um, if you're sad at home and then you get on a plane and fly to Italy, you will be sad in Italy. So don't go to Italy if you're like, and it's like, yeah, that's a funny way to live, but that's what it is. Like, if you're miserable where you are, of course, there's a chance that where you are is why you're miserable or who you're with. That's true. But if you're in a bad mood or a bad state of mind or just a, glass half empty, hopeless, you got the horrified part, but none of the hopeless part, and you go someplace beautiful like Belize or wherever the fuck, you're still going to be miserable, just in a nice, shiny place.
Well, that's not entirely true because you will be miserable. Yes, it will be there, but there will be moments of novelty that can have a really profound effect on you. So you won't be miserable. I don't think you'll be miserable 24/7, but it won't heal you in any deep way, but
There you go.
it's still a good excuse to travel. It's like it's still a good it's like it's like I almost rather somebody that doesn't want to do the work think that traveling might fix them and just get the residual because there is a Radio Lab just did a podcast about happiness and its relation to novelty. And this reporter, she tried to do everything. She tried to do as much new shit as she could do for like however many days, like brush your teeth with the left hand, like got an Airbnb that so nothing, like went and drove cross country and learned to surf and like just did all this shit. And well, I don't think she drove cross country in a couple of days, but she went on some road trip, and she was like, "I'm fucking exhausted. Like, I just want familiarity. I just want like something to like ground myself." Um, uh, but the idea behind this was that it was like science says that the more novelty you have in your life, like the happier that you'll be. Uh, so it's I don't know if that's like I think at the end of this she actually like disproved that. So maybe that was a bad point to bring up. I think she like broke up with her girlfriend with her boyfriend or some shit after it.
There's a
But it was
disclaimer. Mike
yeah
doesn't know what
yeah.
he's talking about.
I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. I'm just quoting shit.
No, but I get
I'm
no, but dude,
hungry.
I get what you say. I get exactly what you're saying. So yeah, I agree to that too. Like, I'm not saying don't travel. I'm not saying don't experience new things. I'm saying on like that deeper level of like, if you're at your core just miserable and no matter what you look at, you're cynical, you're short sighted about everything, you know, like to counter my own point, I remember a couple of years ago, I read about this guy and it's been floating around the internet more now because it had to be 10 years ago. The guy wanted to kill himself and he decided to empty his bank account. He went to Mexico. He wanted to get hookers, get blow, do coke, drink, and just party hard, and then kill himself. Either kill himself by doing that, or then at the end of his money, kill himself. And in 2 weeks of hookers, blow, and drinking in Mexico, he decided to live and came back, and he was fine. So, like, I agree 100% that there is like benefit to, I wouldn't even call it like just strictly novelty, but like experiences. Like I
Yeah.
agree. If I'm depressed, I'm not the type to tell someone who's depressed, like just stop, just be happy, just watch a movie and go outside and look at the sunshine. It doesn't like I get the chemical and I get like it's deeper than that, but I can also say like if you're just constantly putting yourself in maybe slightly uncomfortable, but definitely new situations, it will change the chemistry of your brain. Like you mentioned, the brushing your teeth in your left hand. I did that for like 2 weeks just to like rewire the brain. I used to when I was living on Long Island on the weekends for my free time. I have cameras. I'm an amateur photographer, very amateur. So I used to do because anyone who's ever been on Long Island knows, in my opinion, it's impossible to get lost on Long Island. If you keep driving east, you will hit ocean. If you drive north, you will hit the ocean. If you drive south, you will hit the ocean. If you drive west, you will hit New York City. You cannot get lost. Just turn around and go back, and you'll be fine. So I used to, on purpose, drive through Suffolk County and just make turns and just what's on this road and what, like I had no idea where I was. technically speaking. I mean, I knew I was in Suffolk County, Long Island. I wasn't gonna like take a wrong turn and be in another state or be actually lost. I have GPS on my phone, but I wouldn't use that. And I would just purposefully drive until I saw something or some place that I thought looked cool and I could take pictures of it. I did this every week for months, for years. And that is still the best feeling I've ever, or maybe not since then, but at the time was my most fun activity, to the point where I thought it was so great to do that. I loved it. And I was dating a girl at the time, and I would do it for weeks. Every Sunday, I'd wake up at like 4 o'clock. Like, if I wanted to go to Montauk Point, for those who know the island, it's on the end of the island. I would wake up at like 3 o'clock in the morning, make myself a pot of coffee, fill a thermos, get in my car, put on music, and drive 88 miles in the dark just so I can get, it's all locked, but you can like get on those rocks and walk around the rocks to the point and take pictures of the sunrise. Freezing cold January. And for weeks, she's like, "What do you do? Like, where do you go?" I'm like, "I don't know. I just kind of, I was in the Hamptons. Today I was in here." So she wanted to come with me one time. I said, "All right, I only have one rule. When we're out there, no talking." Like, we got breakfast, we drove. She wanted to drive actually. So we didn't go to Montauk this time, but we went wherever. And every place I wanted to go had a sign that said no trespassing or something like that. I was like, "No, just go there." It's like, "We can." I was like, "Who's going to stop us? What's the worst that's going to happen? We're going to get turned around?" Or I want to go where it says we can't go, like, and just go there. Like, just drive. There's no gate. There's a sign. I don't believe in signs. Signs are bullshit. And she was very uncomfortable and sat in the car most of the time because she was shivering. And that's it. It's the last time she came. But for me, that was the most joy, and she hated it.
Oh,
But I would. The point is, I would purposefully. I would actually hope I would get lost, but it's impossible on an island like that. But the goal was to just go wherever I haven't been. Just I love traveling down roads I haven't driven down before. I like going to spots that were 30 minutes from my house that I've never even knew existed, and that's why my job now, I drive all over the state, but all I'm doing all day is going to some familiar places, but for the most part, I don't know the areas, and I enjoy because you're seeing new roads, new scenery. It's definitely good for my brain. I know that, as far as like the dry, they say take different routes home, and I'm never in the same place. I'm all over the place, and it definitely like spikes whatever dopamine, all the good chemicals. So I believe in novelty. I believe in just doing, experiencing whatever the new thing is to feel
yeah,
better.
and it forces that presence too because you got I call them like when you got travel eyes, you got travel eyes when you're like somewhere new and suddenly you're just like, whoa, like look at
Yeah.
that stop sign, look at that rock, you're just like everything is new.
Yeah, I do that every day. So I just have a few more, probably like shorter answer questions. So when did you first trip? When's the first time you took mushrooms, if you remember?
Yeah. First time that I remember taking mushrooms was it had to be New Year's Eve 1999. I was 19. And we put them on. It's so funny because I thought about this at the last time I did this. We put them on Wendy's burgers or chicken sandwiches or some shit. Yeah. Had a little apartment in North Babylon, Long Island. And, you know, I just fucking lost my mind. I don't even know how many we took. I don't know. I just remember feeling like a piece of shit. I just remember being like, why am I here? I'm a piece of shit. Just like fucking just being like it not being a good time, like at all. I had a bunch of friends, we all ate mushrooms and then we smoked a bunch of weed and everybody went home and that was it. It's like it's so funny to think about how
No, it's
misused they were.
yeah. So that's what I was getting towards. So like, so the first time we took it was just for like the just to do it. You knew we knew what mushrooms. I knew what mushrooms was when I was a teenager. Like we all knew what it was technically. We had an idea. So the first time we did it was sort of like a throwaway, almost like, hey, let's just let's trip to see what it's like.
Plus, it was like, yo, mushrooms and acid were like, somebody has mushrooms, somebody has acid. It's like you like people had to come down like down from upstate with that shit, or in from the city or something. Like it was rare to have psychedelics handy. So that was also the thing. It was like, yo, they're here. Let's do them. We got them. Let's do them. Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely was a different world in the late '90s, early 2000s. Like now, it's like, you want ayahuasca? My mom has some. You're like, oh yeah,
Yeah, just
um,
go on my mom's Etsy. You
yeah,
get you get a buffalo hat and some ayahuasca.
yeah, exactly. So, because you did talk about in your recaps on Instagram how it went from, you didn't say this specifically, but I kind of like, it used to be like a party drug, just a good time. At what point did it go from, I just want to trip and see vivid colors and images, and or have in-depth whatever feelings, thoughts, to more of a ceremonial kind of thing?
I think when I found Terrence McKenna and I started listening to that crazy motherfucker talk and was like, wow, I missed the boat on this shit. Um, because he is, I mean, and there's like hundreds and hundreds of that guy just did nothing but get the information out there for his whole life. So there's like so many hours of that motherfucker talking and like talking about being used to one of the biggest things that like because I've always been seeking healing and answers, and one of the things that the early things that I heard Terrence McKenna say was that like you can he's like, you have people that they spend their whole lives, like sitting, sweeping up around the ashram and sitting in meditation. And, that's fine. But he's like, why are you going to walk when the bus is a nickel? And when I heard him say that, I was like, oh shit. Like he wasn't denouncing any of the other paths of enlightenment, but he was saying like there's a faster way to like there's something happening here, And that's when I started to really revere them mushrooms as like not just something that gets you fucked up. It was like I was like, oh, this is actually like a tool. So I got fucking big bag of mushrooms and I started experimenting with just microdoses and like having my own shit and then being like, well, that wasn't a microdose. I'm going to work. And then I would sit in my car and like not want to go into work. Partially because I was terrified because I was like tripping harder than I wanted to, but also because I was like, what the fuck am I like? What am I? It was like this, like, how did I get here? What am I doing? Oh, I'm going into that building, sit there for 8. Like, what the fuck? Like, everything's like sparkly and beautiful. And I'm like, wait, what am I doing? I don't want to go in there. And that's how I wound up. I mean, that's how I wound up coming to California, honestly, because that was all around that time. I was having a severe mental break, and I was trying everything. That's when I got on meds, and they were throwing everything against the wall with that, trying to figure out, depression and whatever else my problem was, and and mushrooms and psychedelics. Yeah, that was a big part of it, and I think that's what freed me up enough to be like, fuck it, let's just go drive across the country and see what's out there.
So, what can you say about? So you've done it quite a bit, partied with it in your younger years, and then you started shifting more towards a more conscious approach to it. But so for me personally, so same thing. I did it once. I'm one of those guys. I did mushrooms once in like 2003, so 20 years ago, and it was a profound experience. It was not just like staring at the wall and seeing sparkly wallpaper. I actually was in my head, like going through memories, and it was deep, and the visuals were, when I closed my eyes, were even intense. Pretty much when I opened my eyes, I just saw what was there. Just for about 45 minutes, it was crazy. But regardless, the reason I haven't done it since, so back then I was just more naive or oblivious to my anxiety or my um, mortality. I know mushrooms won't kill me, but then I got into McKenna as well. Still haven't done them, but I thought, yeah, this guy is. He said he spent his whole damn life just telling everyone. I mean, he's done every psychedelic drug on the planet, plant, but he talked a lot about the mushroom and DMT. Now, when I started listening to him talk about the mushroom, because there are, as you said, 40 years of audio people saved and recorded. So I listened to him intently, like every detail, like like what you said, like you can meditate for 40 years to reach enlightenment, or you could take 5 dry grams in the darkness and you're there. Like it's there talking. The consciousness is there talking to you. So how do you? Because you said, like you mentioned depression. I'm assuming there's some level of anxiety in you as well. How do you deal with like that fear? Not so much like I'm afraid I'll die or I'm afraid something will go wrong, like I'll go actually psychotic and jump out the window or something like that. It's not salvia or some crazy shit. But like my fear is that my apprehension will ruin my experience. So I know set and setting, I've heard these terms before, but like what do you do to deal with like that fear of like, oh, when I take this dose, like as you said, there's no going back and I have to just let it happen to happen. Like what do you do? Like how do you deal with the fear? How do you like combat it if it comes up, etc.?
Well, this is the first time I've ever done a heroic dose with the guide. So, and I was definitely terrified, but this is interesting because the thing that got me through that was complete trust for this person because I knew that I was going to be taken care of, and I knew that I was going to come out the other side better. Like I trusted that I was going to be taken care of, and I trusted that I was going to come out the other side either the same person or better, whatever that better means. But I knew it wasn't going to, it's not going to be like, oh, sorry, you're fried now or something like that. So my only fear going into it is the fear of like feeling like a piece of shit, like the fear of because that's what mushrooms always did for me. But they always showed me like, here's all the ways you're being a piece of shit. I'm like, no, I don't want to see that. I just wanted to see some fucking colors and laugh. So like to me that was the fear, but I never like I'd sit down with a friend and we'd eat and ate the mushrooms, and I'd be like, fuck, I hope I don't like freak out and don't want to be around you or something. But with doing this, that wasn't there for me because I was like, even if I do feel like a piece of shit, like this person's got me. They're gonna like coach me through it. So I think that's yeah, I think that's otherwise, how else do you prepare for? You just do it. You just do it. And then I think having a going back to having a teacher and a school, I think psychedelics in a guided setting is the fucking bee's knees, man. That's the way to go. Having somebody hold space for you.
I agree. And my fears are the same. My fear is, not so much like I'm fried. One, I'll be forced to face all the ways in which I think I'm a piece of shit. You're lazy, you're this, you're like all the things that like I keep under the surface that I just like pretend like, no, that's not. We'll just be like, aha. And you have to like deal with it. That's a fear. Also, let's just say for argument's sake, I said I want to do them in here in my apartment, and I want my girlfriend to sit for me, like spot me. She has no experience. I think another fear is like I don't. I mean, I love my girlfriend. I know her, but we've only been dating for a few months. Like I don't know you, and now you're here looking at me
Yeah,
from across the room.
no.
That's
You
not
need
good, right?
someone that actually like works with the medicine. There's someone that actually because they become a part of the experience where the mushroom communicates with them as well to give give provide things for you at a certain time, and it's a very um symbiotic experience, although the person for me this person was very hands off most of the time, but also was seemed to be right there when I needed them, and also was like offering me things as soon as I would like think of them, and it was a very symbiotic thing that I felt like was happening. Even little things as like I'd go to use the bathroom and I'd come back and they would before because I was like laying in a bed, and before I would lay back down, I would see like everything was like remade for me, and then we like said a little prayer, like now we're gonna lie back down, and it's gonna be it's gonna be brand new, it's gonna be brand new chapter, and I'm like, oh, I was like, all right. I was like, nobody ever did that for me before. I'm like, okay. And then so it's like just knowing those little notes to hit is I think, what makes the difference between just being like, babe, make sure hide the knives. You know what
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean?
yeah.
I think
No,
yeah.
exactly. I mean, I don't think I'm going to hurt myself. But I also feel like if I'm actually not having a good time in just a moment, it will probably pass. I look over and there's just her two eyes, just like, "Are you okay? You need me to call the ambulance?" Like, why would you say
Yeah.
that? Why would you say that?
Yeah.
No, and also my other fear is that so what you just described is exactly what I would want. Because when you say like give you what you need, I'm like, what, like B12 and orange slices? Like, what is the like? But that makes perfect sense because I do remember my experience of like the thing about mushrooms that I didn't know that I learned by doing it was after the first hour of just I can't control it. It's just like it's coming over me. I can kind of snap in and snap out of it. Like turn to my friend and talk and like, all right, bye, and just be back into another chapter, as you said. So to have someone experience is what I'm looking for if I want to do it again. Because I do want to do it again. I do have no desire to like gobble up some mushrooms and like go to the farmer's market and be like, isn't this awesome? Like, here's 200 people I don't know. This will probably work out for my favor. And like, I'm like nailed. I'm like a cat in the ceiling. Like, get me out of here. Like, I don't want that experience. But I do want the guided. But I also like that you said hands off because I wouldn't want someone like how you feeling? You doing all right? It's like, dude, I'm gonna bite your nose off and run out the door naked. Like, get away from me. Like, so that
There was some points where I forgot that he was even in the room, but I would say something out loud. Like I actually said like I was laying there and I was like, and it was showing me, the mushroom was showing me thoughts. And it was like, it was showing, they were just, materializing, but I couldn't see where they were coming from. And I was
Mhm.
like, what the fuck? And I had a I'm blindfolded the whole time. So I'm like, and I just said out loud, what, what even is a thought? And then I forgot in my mind, he was up in a tree and he looked down at me and he was like, yeah, yeah, look into that. And I was like, oh shit. I was like, I forgot you were even here. I was like, okay. I was like, yeah, what? He's like, yeah. So it was just those key moments of like letting me have my thing, but also being like a little reinforcements. And again, I would just say shit out loud. Like I was like, oh, like I have a bunch of it on recording too. I was like, oh, I got work to do. Like I would just see all the work. And then again, like a few seconds would pass, and I would hear, "What? So what do you got to do?" And I was like, "Oh, fuck." I was like, "Well, let me go back to it and look at it." So it was just those things of like kind of challenging things, like as they came up, and then also really like helping me integrate, like at the end of it taking me and like I brought food that I prepared and he heated it up for. I was like, oh, just give me, I'll eat it cold. He's like, no, fucking have a fucking meal. And I'm like, all right, like hot meal. And it was like really nice. And then helping, kind of integrate and then continuing to do that, to continuing like the next day. And we've been in touch. I just feel like I don't want to say who the person is because I'm not
No, no,
sure.
no,
But
no. Of course
but
not. Like,
but
yeah,
yeah,
no.
we've been
What's
in
his full
touch.
government? What's his full
Yeah,
government name and address? Please say that on the microphone.
and it's just part of ongoing work that we're doing together, and it's nice to have that sort of stability there, to have to really like be like, Mike, this is your experience. This is fucking like we're going in, and I'm gonna be right there because like this is about getting you fucking healing you. And that I think is an invaluable part of it because it changes it from like, oh, I just ate some mushrooms and hung out with a friend, and which is cool too. Like, I don't, please don't think that I'm saying only do mushrooms in a therapeutic setting. I really enjoy, my ex, my last girlfriend, she liked to just nibble on a mushroom here and there, and she kind of like brought me back to that little relationship. I'm like, oh yeah, okay, and we eat them together, and like, I'm like, oh, I'm fucking glad that we did that. Like, I'm not too high, but this is cool. So I think dabbling on your own is cool, but like, if you really are trying to get at something and you're really trying and you have an aim and you have a goal and you have, something you're like, I need to figure this shit out. Like, that's when I think you pick up the phone and like you figure out like who's out there that can facilitate this.
Yeah, I want both of those experiences. I want to be able to, like you said, nibble on a mushroom here and there, not get too high, but just have a little bit of like a micro dose kind of a whatever the benefits of that are, and also the guided thing. I'm putting it out there. I want someone to reach out because I mean, I've been here for 2 years, basically a year, and I don't know anybody like that. California seems like the place, or the West Coast seems like the place where you can probably throw a rock and find somebody like that. I mean, I might be.
Yeah, but
Um,
but it's also that's not true because you will hit someone like that. And there's a lot of people faking the funk, you know, out on this coast. I mean, all over the world, but like, there's a lot of people faking the funk. So it's really nice when you get someone that's like the real deal. And I think, yeah, man, I think put it out there. And I mentioned that guy Gurdjieff to you. He started the fourth way school, which is the path of knowledge that was given to, he collected all of these teachings from the East and brought them back here, and kind of redefined what the Western teachings already were, and created the fourth way. He was a fucking badass, and that's the book that I'm reading now. Is written by his student, or he was his student Ospensky. It's called the In Search of the Miraculous. It's fucking heady stuff, but I mean, it gives you a blueprint for, like, I mean, from being and behavior to like the cosmos and science, and it's like everything is addressed. It leaves no stone unturned, really. Um, and that's the kind of shit that I'm on right now because it's really consistent with what the mushroom showed me, and it's really consistent with everything that's been in my life thus far. Like, it's not like reading this book and learning more about this practice, his different practices, and the ways that what he thought about consciousness. It I feel like it's not asking me to buy into anything that wasn't already there for me, you know, which is like a really nice experience. So I would look into that because, especially in, these are the types of things that tend to have clubs, you know, and these are the types of things that tend to have like people saying, "Oh, let's take a little bit of what he said and mix it with some mushrooms," and take a little bit, people kind of marrying psychedelics to these old mystic ideas. Um, so I think that maybe that might be a path, a bat signal for anyone that's trying to like find a teacher and some knowledge and some wisdom and some guidance, and also something in the psychedelic realm that is administered by someone that you can really trust. So
Interesting. No, yeah, I'm looking for that, but I'm definitely gonna look up that book, the audio book version of that. This In Search of the Miraculous. That sounds
yeah.
right up my alley. Um, all right. So, final question or thought. So, a lot of what you talked about in the recaps, and a lot of what you talked about tonight, is about, or maybe not about, but the things you talked about. I will say one might assume that or whatever feel that they're uncomfortable, like talking about, you know, food disorder, eating disorder, depression, the journey in any way. So, how do you think, based on the fact that you are now deciding to share more of your own personal story, and whether it's on social media, however, through this podcast, has helped you be able to either deal with things that are uncomfortable or share them, or have the want, even the desire to share things that you might feel are uncomfortable? Like, how do you think the mushroom in that experience and all the the words and the ideas it showed to you may have helped to, I don't want to say get over, it's not the right word, not the right term, like get, like, I guess, like, deal with saying things that will may make you uncomfortable? Like, how do you think the mushroom helped with uncomfortability, so to speak? Because you did talk
I think
about,
I
like,
got,
saying the uncomfortable things, like.
yeah, no, I really wanted to just check in with myself and see what was there because I think I really, all of this information that came through this trip, all of this like wisdom that was bestowed on me about who I am and who I'm not, it was all part of this vision also of like who I can be and finally being free, like actually being free from compulsion, from from fear, from these beliefs that I can only be, that I'm limited, in being who I am. And the idea of becoming that is so fucking exciting and inspiring that I'm willing to take a little shame on the chin for like being, you know, vulnerable or uncomfortable. Plus, it showed me that I think this is the path to doing that, to finding that was to go deeper, deeper, deeper where it is uncomfortable and find new discomforts because I like to talk about, being vulnerable when I write, when I perform. I'm always telling people be vulnerable. It's like been a mantra of mine for a long time. But I never realized that once I was done being vulnerable with shit, I continued to be vulnerable and I wasn't really being vulnerable about those things because now they're comfortable to me and I can say them. Like even going on stage and being like, yeah, I'm a fat guy. That might not sound like a big deal. It took me like almost 15 years to be able to even talk about my weight on stage or be self-deprecating or anything. And now it's just like, and I thought since I was doing that and started out as a vulnerability, that I'm still vulnerable to it, but I'm not. There's other shit underneath, like talking about my relationship with food, which is just saying those words right now. It's very uncomfortable because I have no problems. Obviously, I'm fat. You see that. I can say that. I'm comfortable. But now I don't want to talk about the reason. And now I don't want to talk about the reason behind that reason. And I think that through talking about it is helping me heal it in a way. And how the mushroom played a role in that was to just really fucking motivated me. Like I got this like scent, this like whiff of being whole, being healthy, being in my body and being um like half the size I am now. I'm 370 pounds. I saw myself as like I just saw myself. I saw this outline of myself. It was like bigger, but like big, but like way thinner and like strong and healthy. And I was like, and for the first time, because I envisioned that before, and it always fucking scared me, and I never understood why. And it was because if I'm not the fat guy, I don't fucking know who I am because I have this victimhood thing where I think like as long as I'm the fat guy, the world won't expect too much of me. And this vision that I saw of me like not being the fat guy for a fucking brief moment, it was just surrounded with like oh, like all goodness. Like there was no fear around it. Um so yeah, so that's why I'm just like fuck it, I'll make these, and it's like I have to remember that as time goes on and I get further away from the trip and deeper into like making videos. That it's like I need to remember that that's the motivation behind it. Because I could also just talk about this shit and not post it. I suppose I could do that, but there feels something, I don't know. As people seem to, I got a few nice messages of people that seem to be inspired by it. So here, fuck it, I'll keep doing it.
No, I agree with that sentiment. I've actually said on many of my videos, like I used to tell people to do what I was doing, not to make videos, but to the act of talking out loud is extremely powerful. So thinking it helps too. Like, like you said, thinking about what you need to do, the work, but saying it out loud is a little bit different. It's actually stronger. I think like saying it out loud, not so much about the manifestation of it, but more of like, it's almost like if I think something and say something, I'll probably remember it. If you say something, I'll probably remember it. But if I write it down, not, even without going back and looking at it, the act of writing it, I'll remember it. I still to this day do this all the time. I'll write notes I'll remind myself not using my phone, actual pen and paper, and lose those notes. But the fact that I wrote them down at some point, it's in there because it's the combination of the thought, the tactile, visceral. I wrote it down on paper. I wrote the words out. So I think speaking it out loud. So I tell people all the time, make videos for yourself, even if you don't want to show them to anybody. Just put your camera there and talk to yourself about how you're feeling, what you're thinking, whatever. Because every time I made those videos, especially when I first started doing it back in 2017, I only started doing it because I was miserable. Um, I was so in a panic state, anxious state, unhappy that I needed to talk. And I would talk to myself all the time. I still do, but I recorded it, and I remember thinking like, I feel better. I didn't post it. I just recorded on my phone, and even though I was still in the shit, so to speak, I felt so much better. So I get it, and also the fact that that being fat at one point was was uncomfortable. It just the reason why I think you could talk about it was it became comfortable for whatever reason. So now the layer, as you said, that what's underneath that, what because there's so much research and so many people talk about this online about the benefits of being uncomfortable. Just discomfort, whether it's from exercising or from doing novelty things like new things that new places, new people, new experiences. It's uncomfortable, but the benefit from that, those small amounts of pain, discomfort, uncertainty, end up helping you grow as a person, which is the whole idea behind brushing your teeth with your left hand. It's uncomfortable and awkward, and believe me, I hate it. It's stupid. It sucks. But you're rewiring your brain. So it's the same concept of like, if you're, as you said, if you're comfortable, even if you're being vulnerable, if you're comfortable, you're not really growing. You're not really, it's not helping or changing. It's good, but it's not, there's no like real, I don't want to say benefit. There's definitely a
Risk.
benefit,
There's no
but yeah,
risk.
wisdom. Yeah, no risk. There's no risk. Exactly.
Yeah,
So
yeah, it's like putting the body under stress. It's like lifting, curling a 25-pound dumbbell is not comfortable. But how else do you get guns, baby?
and that would be, I guess that would be awesome. Like you said, of a year from now, you just like we're svelte with guns, just like just like doing this, like doing that thing.
I will never do that. I
Yeah,
will
me
never do
neither.
that. But even if I was ripped, I was thinking too that it's funny because somebody wrote me and they said, hey, I really appreciate what you're saying because there's so many of these people out here that make content like this that it's like after the fact. And they're like, this is how I lost the weight, or this is how, or whatever. And I was like, oh yeah, I was like, I kind of didn't really think about that. And I also haven't really made I realized today, I'm like, I haven't really made a declaration of like, I'm on this journey to like lose weight and here's my goal. It's like I'm on like this presence journey and I think losing weight will be part of that. But I wonder if I should like see, I'm afraid to say publicly like, okay, weight loss journey starts like today and be like one of those guys because then it's like, well, fuck. Like what happens if I fucking a year from now I don't? You know what I mean? Like
No, I get it. Yeah.
but it might be a good thing to commit to. I just don't think I'm there. I just don't think I'm there yet. Right now, it's like I'm trying to feel really good about starting at the fucking top, and trying to get my thoughts under control. And I am doing like a little bit of um I've been trying to just do like 15 minutes of fucking kettlebells or like some stretching here and there or like go walk around the I've been trying to like do some sort of intentional body stuff. Um but I need to do that actually. I need to do more of that.
Yeah, but we all. I mean, I'm also a large person. I'm like, why? Because I fast too. So just this past week, talking about fasting. So when we started that fast, what, 2 years ago? It was like 2 Decembers ago. I've been pretty much intermittent fasting like 3 days a week for 2 years. Like every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I won't eat till dinner. And I've seen like my weight just stay. I'm not losing a bunch of weight, but I'm not gaining a bunch of weight. I just, which is good. I'm because I too in 2015 was just under 400 pounds. I was like 390. I didn't even know how fat I was. I was just like, I went to get a physical for a job and they have to weigh you. And I was like, oh, that's exactly how much of a piece of shit I am. I'm 396 pounds of shit. And
Mm.
just from working in a warehouse, I dropped down to, probably like 50 pounds. And now I'm hovering about, 315. I haven't, in junior year in high school, I was 330. So I've been about the same size for 24 years. But I'm pretty sure as I get into my 40s, 300 pounds is not the ideal weight for your blood and your heart and all that, So I get it. I don't have an eating disorder, but I too want to move and get healthier and feel better. And it is work. It is work. And what I want to say about what you had said was like, yeah, I think posting the videos, there is an aspect to it where it's accountability. I understand why you wouldn't want to do that, be that guy like, today's the day, today's day one. And now people are just like watching, like, all right, we're on day
Yeah.
23, Mike. I don't fucking see shit. What are you doing? But also,
That'd be funny if I just troll everyone and I gain 50 pounds. Like day one.
yeah.
I think
But
he's getting fat.
I can hear you getting fatter. It's like, like, but there is that thing, like what you said, there is that part of it that makes it attractive as far as like people want to see what you're putting out there. Is because, yeah, we typically, not always, but typically we only see the after guy. We never see the
Right,
before guy. We never see
right.
the, like, his story. We always see like, this was me 18 months ago. It's like we never see the guy who's like, this is me now. And come,
Yeah, I might still be fat before and after. Hey,
but
that's a good, I mean, that's a good market, right? Maybe I should go for it because nobody's doing that weight loss journey that never fucking never happens. It's great.
it's like year 7, still trying to lose those 22 pounds. Like, I'll do it. This is the year 2031.
Oh my God, Jesus.
I don't think that's what's going to be what's going
I
to happen,
can't be
obviously.
fat. I can't be fat in 2031. I got something to do. It's something to do in 2031.
Yeah, but I think that's a good point to stop things. I really enjoyed you sharing this information because obviously I wanted to hear about your personal, like, as far as um the food addiction and like how it's the mushroom showed you like what to do, or at least like where to pointed you in the right direction. But the rest of the information, I think, especially for me, people like me who are interested in psychedelics for ceremonial, medicinal. I don't, I just want to. If you want to party and get high, that's all fine too. I don't care. But me personally, like for years, at least the past 5 years, I've been really mulling over. Like this summer, I want to do the 5 grand or some amount and have that whatever it is. I'm not like going into it like I might have an intention, but I don't want to like you said, I don't think I'm gonna wake up the next day and be like, I'm satiated after every meal and I'm happy and everything's good and all the bad stuff was yesterday. Now I don't even assume that, but I'm looking forward to like sharing this video with everyone so they can see if they're on the fence or if they've whether they're experienced or not, like, what I'm interested in seeing what people think from this interview, like what questions would arise, um, and thoughts, etc. But thanks, man. I appreciate
Yeah,
you
man.
taking the time.
Thanks. This is cool. Thanks for doing this and for kicking off the Dude Lou show.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think
Listen, this is my first episode. I didn't even think about that. This is my first episode.
so. I'll come back. I'll come back on episode 100, and we'll see. You know what would be cool if you get like your fan base. You get a fan base, get some fans, and then you get them to like have an ongoing over under on by show 100 what my weight will be. And that's how you can generate some revenue.
That'll be part of the Patreon. Like,
Yeah.
we're up to $42,000, guys. Let's get to 50. Put it into the month. Like, all right, Mike.
Shit, man.
Thanks a lot, man. I'm gonna.
Thanks for. I'm actually gonna go eat right now. So cool. Later, bro.
All right, later. Thanks, guys, for watching. Peace.